Welcome to Section 4, Deploy Services in the Google Cloud Platform, Networking. In the first video in Section 4, I want to give you a quick overview and introduction to networking in the Google Cloud Platform. And if you're familiar with networking in other cloud platforms, you might want to pay special attention here because it is slightly different. Google has a global network philosophy. That means that all compute engine resources are either global, regional, or zonal. Let's take a look first at global resources. Global resources are, just as the name describes, accessible by any resource in any zone. You don't need to specify a scope with global resources. Let's look at regional resources next. Regional resources are accessible by any resource within the same region, as the name implies, and regions can contain one or more zones. Zonal resources are resources that are unique to that zone. They're only accessible to other resources in the same zone. Okay, so global, regional, and zonal. How do we make sense of all of this? When we're looking at our Google Cloud Platform console, we look at the name of the region that we're working with, and we can parse that out and determine which zone we are in. So here's the region, and there's the zone. Next, let's talk about IP addressing in the Google Cloud Platform. In Google, virtual machines come with a private IP address, just like in all the other cloud platforms out there. You can request a public IP address. It's ephemeral by default. That means it's tied to the life of the instance. If you delete the instance, the IP address gets deleted with it. It's not independent of the instance. Additionally, and a third type of IP is static, and this is the independent type of IP. This is what AWS calls an elastic IP. It's yours until you release it. You can assign it to any resource you want. So 3 types of IP addressing in Google: private, public, and static. Let's talk about interfacing. Each instance or virtual machine comes with one network interface by default. That's pretty obvious. Additional interfaces can be added, up to 8. Why would you need more than one interface? There are a lot of reasons. One of them is you could have one interface pointing to the internet and one interface pointing to a corporate network. You could have one interface pointing to a backup network and one interface pointing to a corporate network. You could have one interface pointing to a DMZ and one to a corporate network, and a bunch of other scenarios. Let's quickly go over networks and subnets on the Google Cloud Platform. When a new project is created, an associated default network is created. This is a big container, okay? The default network provides each region with an auto subnet, so it builds a bunch of subnets for the different regions for you. You can create your own subnets as well, up to 4 additional subnets per project. So when you build your project and you build a network in that project, it looks something like this, where there's a default network and a bunch of pre-built subnets inside that default network, each corresponding to a region. Next, let's talk about firewalls. Each network has a default firewall. This firewall blocks all ingress traffic from outside of the network. So if you want your machine to be accessible from outside of the Google Cloud Platform network, you need to modify the firewall rules. And that was a very quick introduction to networking in Google Cloud, and I thank you for joining me.